ladies and gentlemen, my name is XD, and welcome to Ultimate Admiral's Dreadnoughts. Now, wasn't anticipating doing this series again, however, my channel's actually quite small, so getting 11 views in a couple of days on one of my videos is quite a massive achievement, so I enjoy this game, people seem to enjoy this game, so yeah, I'm going to do it. With that being said, I would also like to say hello to the people that have watched me so far, and hello to the new subscribers that have just joined me. I don't have a lot of stats at the moment for that because, well, YouTube is being YouTube, and it's come up with the thing saying, hey, some of these stats for X, Y, Z are not accurate. But what I'm going to do at the moment is the Battle of the River Plate. I'm going to build the Graf Spee. This game is still in alpha. The developers have said they're going to improve the custom battle mode, but right now I don't have the ability to customize the British fleet, so I'm going to stick the Graf Spee was launched in 1936, so I'm going to stick to 1936. I know that I might actually put, because I'm outnumbered 3-1, and the British ships were built in the 1920s, at least I believe 1920s going into the early 1930s. From memory, I believe that's correct because they were, I think they were Leanders, and the Leanders were 1920 design. So I'm going to put them down to 1930 to sort of even it out a bit. Because obviously I can't design the enemy fleet at the moment. They've said, hey, we're going to do that eventually, but currently there's no way to design the enemy fleet. So 16,200 long tons was what she was, approximately. Obviously, World War II stats, we don't really know. A lot of the information was destroyed. She was definitely long range. It's impossible to know what kind of bulkhead she had, really. Or what those, well, we obviously, we've got the plans for the ship, but we don't know what those bulkheads would correspond in game. No way to really know. She did have diesel engines. I'm going to do diesel 1 because her diesel engines, by the time of the Battle of the River Plate, her diesel engines were shot, basically. Oil fired because of diesel engines. Again, we have no way to know what representation the boilers would have game-wise compared to reality. So I'm just going to go forced. Same with the rest of this. We can't choose the number of propellers. She had we're going to say Krupp 3, and we'll just give her a realistic chance. She had a small... She was a cruiser, so she didn't have, battleship levels of anti-torpedo protection, but they did predict that she could be damaged she'd be facing destroyers like cruisers, things like that, so they did give her a little more protection that was necessary. I believe she was double-hulled. I can't say for certain, but the designs that I have in front of me don't tell me whether she was double hull, but I believe she was. I think so. Could be wrong. Again, the same with the bulkheads. I'm just going to give her maximum bulkheads because I'm going to do the amount of armor that she had. So that doesn't always correspond to the game. So again, I'm going to give her what I can. Citadel, I'm going to do Citadel 3. Again, she's a cruiser, not a battleship. I believe she had light shells, but yes, she did, because she went with the World War I style of shell. Rather than the design of the 11-inch guns on the Scheinhorst and Gneisenau, she went with the earlier style, so light shells. That's also the same reason why Nelson and Rodney had light shells. There were 16-inch shells on the 2 British battleships, but when they actually constructed those 16-inch guns, it was using German knowledge captured from the Germans, and that knowledge hadn't been properly tested. So, yeah. The more you know. Again, I don't know what kind of explosives she would have had. I've got no statistics for that. I could probably look it up, but I'm going to just go with... I'm not going to go with tube powder. I think it would either be some sort of white powder or TNT, so I'll go with TNT 1. She had electrical turrets. I think she had semi-automatic reloading. because that was sort of standard through the German Navy. Her torpedo tubes were 21 inches, so 21-inch torpedo tubes. I don't have any stats at all for rangefinders, but I'm not gonna go all the way because this is 1936, and that I would class that probably as a battleship level of rangefinder. So she is a cruiser. She definitely had hydroacoustics. Did she? I don't see hydroacoustics on there, so I'm going to take her hydroacoustics off. She had, yeah, let's go with Gen 1 radar. She's not going to look like the Graf Spee once I've finished because, simply put, the game doesn't have the necessary hull components for me to design the ship exactly. It's just mainly going to be things like the guns, etc. I do have some ships plans here. And we'll just be looking to the side for a sec. I mean, these are rough ships plans. I know the German archives have ships plans, but the German archives don't always share those plans because once you put something on YouTube, YouTube gets a sort of copyright over them, and holds some of the licenses once you put it on YouTube. So the German, well, the German equivalent to the American National Archives and to the British Archives, don't actually allow you to upload certain information. So yeah, it's a legal thing. Right, her secondary armament was actually 5.9 inches. But the way the game works, oof. I've already got quite a heavy aft offset, and I've already used almost all my, Right, I've almost used up all my tonnage. So I'm going to have to play around with some of this. Let's put it down to long range, because obviously she had secondary batteries, and it would be unfair for me not to put secondary batteries on a ship that had them. If I had more tonnage to spare, I would actually... If these weren't a main battery, I would use these because she had 5.9-inch barrels. But yeah, look at the tonnage up there. I'm trying to keep it somewhat realistic. How am I going to do this? I don't think I'm going to be able to get as many... Right, first of all, she had 2 quad torpedo launchers, port and starboard. And she's overweight. Right. Balance boilers, bring it back down. Reduce the shaft because she wasn't as manoeuvrable as some other ships. Maybe bring down the torpedo protection a bit. I know she did have torpedo protection, but you know. Right, so she had 4 single 5.9-inch guns each side. Can I do that? Right, no, get the other ones in first, and then we'll see what we can do with... Right, you're already as far forward as you can get, aren't you? Please don't play up. Right, so... This is going to be a bit awkward. Come on. As soon as I record, it decides to do the freezing part on me. I could bring down the recording quality and play some about settings, but that would kill the video quality as well, so I don't want to do that. Come on. Please allow me to... You know what, I'll stick it there. Goodness sake, game. Okay. Are you going to put it on? Yes, thank you. Right. 5-inch. Oof. Is that really going to be the best 5-inch that I can get? Oof. Right, I might. Because she had, I think she had one. Right, I'll go back to the plans. Just give me a sec. Because I can physically see on the ship. Conning tower turrets. No, that's protection, armament. Triple, twin. Okay, right. So that's what I'm going to do then. She had 4, 5, 6, 7. So she basically had 7, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So 3. So 2 triple turrets either side with a single turret, and that will get me the armament. But she's overweight now. Armor is going to be a little bit annoying. Main turrets. Main turrets are really only 5.5 inches. Jesus. 5.5 inch on the main turrets. Belt armor. Ooh. 3.9. I can't even do 3.9. Main deck. 2.8 to 1.8. So 2.8. At least can put something up. Belt extended. Again, it doesn't say anything about extended belt. Belt 4-inch, tapering towards 2-inch turrets. Oh, okay. So right. So on the design of the Admiral Shear, it says they have a turret 7-inch faceplate plus additional. Right. So actually, it's okay. That works for me. That works for me. Okay. So turrets had a 7-inch faceplate, so that's better than what I had before. Secondary turrets, it doesn't entirely say. Underwater protection, very complete. Internal bulges. Sides 5-inch. That doesn't help me. Cause it's one number. It's not individual numbers. So I'm going to put that up to. It says 4 inches. It says the belt amidships taper into. Ooh. Well, it says tapering to 4 inches, so barbettes for 4, conning tower was 5. Oof, I don't like this. Turrets, plate side. So they had 3 inches on the top. You know what? She could resist 5 and 6-inch shells, kind of. So given that, probably about that. But in terms of game play, that's extremely limited. I would not normally take a ship out in that condition under most circumstances. She had anti-aircraft mounts. She did have a single aft light caliber AA mount, which was 75mm, so 4-inch single forward. Or shall I just go like that? I've got some protection. Double hull torpedo protection. Oof. I don't have any. Do I have? I'm gonna put this up just a tiny bit. It's oof. Right. Okay. I wouldn't sail this design out myself. Hand on heart, I would not sail this design out myself. what were her torpedoes? I know they were 21 inches. I know that much, but torpedoes. I honestly thought she had better torpedoes. What she did. What 2 outbreak? Cumberland. Yes, Cumberland never actually met. Scuttling wreck. Right. So anyway, can't do anything with the torpedoes. We're at 100% weight. Oof. Let's try this. Let's try this. Ooh. There we go. Hello, E-class. Cup of tea. Right. Slow to... Ooh, actually we're a bit close. Ooh, I completely forgot how close we were. Well, that can mess us up a little bit. So, anyway, regardless, what do the British have? So, that looks like a heavy cruiser to me. No, that's a light cruiser. That's a heavy cruiser. Actually, HMS Exeter did have 6 8-inch turrets, so that's historically accurate. That's accurate to the situation, and she also had several torpedo tubes as well, accurate to the situation. Yeah, but we need to get some distance. Unlike in reality, where Langsdorff closed in, basically what happened is there were 4 ships sent to roughly the River Plate area along the coast of Argentina. There were 4 ships, Ajax, Achilles, Exeter and Cumberland. Cumberland was a county class heavy cruiser. The 2 light cruisers were Leanders, and Exeter was a town? No, town's a light cruiser. She was something. She was a heavy cruiser. Can't remember exactly what. Basically, Langsdorff saw the ships and thought they were destroyers. Basically thought he'd been on patrol for several months, sunk several ships, including the... Oh, now as soon as I've gone to talk about it, all the knowledge is gone. Oh, God. Right, the Doria Bay, something like that. Actually, I could probably take my eyes off the battle and look at the wiki page, go to wiki and look at the page, but yeah, I think he sunk the Doria Bay or something, which got off a distress signal, which prompted Commodore Harwood to send his squadron that way. Langsdorff wasn't particularly happy just raiding defenceless ships. He wanted a bit of a battle to crown off his achievement. Obviously, British destroyer leaders, or British destroyers, aren't much smaller than some of the British light cruisers, especially things like the Leanders. So from a distance, there's really not much in them. Because of that, he thought he was going up against 3 destroyers and potentially 2 destroyers and a destroyer leader. Destroyer leader is something that was unique to the British. Basically, it's a bigger destroyer, almost a light cruiser. If that was what was going to happen, his heavy cruiser would have easily been able to smack them around and sink all 3, probably. But obviously, it was a heavy cruiser and 2 light cruisers, so yeah, that didn't work out particularly well for him. He was not really quick enough to escape them. He almost sunk the Exeter. I think he did, at some point, disabled all of the Exeter's turrets, which would be heavy cruiser. Disabled, basically shot all the guns off and put so many holes in it that they almost lost it. I can't remember. I can't remember whether it was repaired or scrapped, but I know it took serious damage, really serious damage, and there was a lot of casualties aboard. But yeah, most of these ships had their turrets and other bits knocked out, and it was several hundred holes poked in all of them. I think they did something like 1,500 rounds of ammo that they shot at each other. So it was went on for several hours, and it was a stupidly long battle. Well, stupidly long. That's wrong to say it wasn't. It was just how it played out. Shouldn't really say it was stupidly long. When you think about a naval battle, it was long. When you think about 3-on-1, it was long. But obviously, the 3 were the inferior ones. I think the Leander class is only something like 8,000 tons? Between 6 and 8,000 tons, although I could be getting those mixed up with the Didos for tonnage. So, between the both of them, between the 2 light cruisers, they probably still had less mass than the 1 heavy than Graf Spee. Why did I leave it as seedlets? It's the Graf Spee. Okay, you don't. This part here you don't see. It's Graf Spee. It's not seedlets. At the moment, I'm just trying to create a little bit of distance so we can see finally what these light cruisers are. So, 7-inch. Oh dear. The Topaz? Really? Topaz? Yeah, this ship is more heavily armed than either of the 2 light cruisers were. It lacks torpedoes, but yeah, 12 7-inch guns. Yeah, no. They had 9 6-inch guns. No, they didn't. No, they didn't have 9 6-inch guns. They had 6 6-inch guns. I'll look that up. I'll actually look that up. I know it'll. When I do this, it will pause it, but I'm a bit a bit thingied right now. A bit curious. Battle overplay. Yeah, definitely Leanders. Leander class has length, displacement, armament. Ajax. Ajax specifically. Armament has 8. Yeah, 8 6-inch guns. Okay, right. So it wasn't that far off. I did get it was a Leander class, so I'll accept that. Sorry, don't really interrupt the video, but as they've been with me long enough now, I have a touch of OCD, and some things do get on my nerves. Especially when I can't remember things, I do get a little bit frustrated and a little bit annoyed. And to be fair, I'm doing a lot better than I thought I would. With this little armour in this game. I know it's not even been an hour, but still. I expected to have taken more damage at this point. What are these bulkheads? So they're at maximum bulkheads, so these guys are going to be difficult to actually penetrate. Difficult to penetrate, which means, well, they're going to be easy to penetrate, but the spreading of fire and flooding is going to be severely withdrew? I can't speak. It's going to be severely hampered. I'll just say hampered. Hampered is a word. Cup of tea. Because we're civilized here, damn it. And I'm going to be a bit cheeky and I'm going to go with historical accuracy here. Main guns, Shift, Alt, right. Shift, Alt. Come on. You're going to be a pain, you are, aren't you? Right, break that off. Shift, Alt, right. That should just be, yeah, the primary guns. 22 knots is probably, realistically, is too slow. Does it really jump to 15k out? Well, that's the opposite of what actually happened in reality. The 3 ships were hounding the Graf Spee like crazy. Their intention was to get in as close as possible, because their guns were really only effective at close range. But obviously the game models some of the things, but it's not reality. In reality, these guns were less effective the further you went out. The Graf Spee completely outranged them. The Graf Spee was trying to break distance. By the time they figured out it was 3 cruisers and not 3 destroyers, Langsdorff tried to break distance. Captain Langsdorff was the captain of the Graf Spee. He's actually a torpedo expert, if I remember correctly. He's a torpedo expert who served in World War One, distinguished in the First World War. What's the accuracy? 0.6%. One thing I do like about this game is, yeah, 0.6% accuracy is realistic. You see a lot of games like World of Warships where they just, as fun as World of Warships is to play, the kind of accuracy you see in that game is not the kind of accuracy that usually goes on in reality. I know, obviously, that was nasty. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, the kind of accuracy you see in World of Warships isn't what you will see in reality. Many of the problem with reality is there are so many different circumstances, and it affects things. For example, during the Spanish-American War, USS Olympic, was it Olympic? Completely different battle, completely different period. Basically, a US ship with 8-inch guns. It was kind of a pocket battle. Well, it's not irrelevant. It was kind of a pocket battleship, a bit like Graf Spee was, where it was a pint-sized battleship. It was a tiny battleship. It had the armor, it had the protection. Though the American ship didn't have the speed. Didn't have the maneuverability of Graf Spee here. Its accuracy was considered the best in the American fleet, and it managed 1% accuracy. Yeah. 1% of all of the shells that it fired hit. And we're not talking about range of multiple kilometers. It wasn't 10 kilometers, they close into point blank range. We're talking 5-6 kilometers going, and this is against a fleet of Spanish ships that were at anchor. So a fleet of ships that were at anchor trying to get underway, and they only managed 1% accuracy. And that was the most advanced ship in the fleet. Same kind of thing at Jutland. The reason the Battle of Jutland, the reason why the British ships were firing so many shells at Jutland, which obviously cost many ships and many thousands of people their lives, was because the guns weren't accurate. The crews weren't skilled enough, and the guns simply weren't accurate. So it was a case of throw as many shells out there as we physically can to do as much damage. So obviously if you throw enough shells out there, someone's going to hit, and that was the idea. Obviously at Jutland that came back to bite us. And so did, you know, Beatty, Admiral Beatty, the guy in charge of Jutland. He yeah, was probably, well, one of the worst admirals in history. Even considering how far he never should have been promoted to the level that he was. It was because he was a upperclassman more, and he knew how to talk more than anything else. But yeah, they shouldn't have been promoted at all. Just terrible admiral. He cost a lot of people a lot of lives. Okay, so that is a more significant hit than I actually realised. I thought this ship was actually a lot better off than it is. Still, 9-inch guns, which isn't far off what the actual ship had. 5-inch guns, 3-inch guns, 2-inch guns, and lots of torpedoes. So Topaz is actually doing fine. Cirrus is a nice name. Is Cirrus a Dido class cruiser? I'll have to build the Didos at some point. I like the Didos. Yeah, this is one of the issues with the AI of Ultimate Admirals. Well, it's not necessarily an issue. There are circumstances where standing off at maximum range is the best course of action, but not when your enemy is... Obviously, the further away that you go, the less penetration you've got on your shells, the less damage you're going to do. The more inaccurate you are, the less damage you're going to do. And when your enemy has bigger guns than you, yeah, problems. When the enemy's got bigger guns, eek. Standing off is probably, you know, a bad thing. Your guns are less effective, theirs are still effective. I mean, I've got 3.9% accuracy on my guns. They've got 6.3, but they are, what? 12, right, let's call it 12 kilometers away. 12 kilometers, they can penetrate deck of 3.8, 12 inches. Obviously my deck here will be 8.6 or 8.7 with that. So they're not really doing a lot of damage. My deck is 2.8. They can penetrate deck armor of 12, 3.8, but again, I have the shells are, because of the range, as you can see, the shells aren't coming in flat. They're coming in at an angle. Mid-belt partial penetration, so it's hitting the belt and the deck. And although it says 2.8 here, it's actually not 2.8 because that quality matters. So it's 108% of 2.8, so almost 6 inches of armour, which they can't penetrate. And this ship has a few bulkheads. Yeah, if anyone buys the game, don't use ships with few bulkheads. Even in the early game, if you have to sacrifice guns for bulkheads, absolutely do it. Otherwise, you know, possibly a single hit here has probably caused all that damage, because few bulkheads can't keep the water out. Obviously, depending on what mission role you want this ship to go in, depends on how you do it, but still. I'm actually going to close in a bit. Oh, another hit, another flood. Again. Bedford, what are you doing? 21 knots now. Yeah, she's losing speed. 24. Yeah, she's flooding, losing speed. These ships are still fine, although that section's damaged there, it doesn't really mean anything. I do love these damage models. Look at that. More flooding. Ooh, fire, flood. Yeah, this is why you don't go with few bulkheads, people. This has gone from a battle I expected to lose to a battle where I'm gonna win. But yeah, look at that damage model though. Hole, fire, massive gash. But yeah, considering she's only taken a few hits, what's she taken? Fire, repair. Really hasn't taken that many hits. I mean, I've only done 14 penetration hits. One over penetration. Penetration is important. No, I'm not being lewd. Sorry, that was my sense of humour. Penetration. The difference between penetration and over-penetration is simple. Penetration, the shells, they're not solid bullets. They are hollow, full of explosives, so they're an explosive round. When something penetrates, it goes through the first set of armour, goes through the side armour, penetrates into the middle, and explodes in here, doing a load of damage. Over-penetration is where the shell hits, goes in one side, goes out the other, and then goes off in the sea somewhere where it does minimal damage. The shell goes through one side, out the other. Crews can deal with that. I mean, damage control teams have been, for centuries, have been using boards and nails and all sorts to whack in the holes. They're putting a hole in the side of a ship. If there's not a bang there, it's not going to be worth it. Obviously, that goes for, you know, steel ships. That's not for Age of Sail ships. For Age of Sail ships, if you put a hole in it, bang or not, you know, it's got problems. So, Cirrus hasn't been taking a lot of damage, so let's pick on Cirrus. Yes, let's pick on you. Ah, my squeaky thing again. Because we're civilized here. I don't know why, but as soon as I went to record, I've just throat's gone tickly. I've been fine for the last couple of days, and then I've just done that and started choking. No idea why. It's just a thing. Oof. Okay. Well, that was a direct hit. You could see the damage model. I could see the damage model. I didn't notice, actually. I thought I saw something, might not. But yeah, this is a light cruiser, 9,000 tons. It's smaller than the ship that's just sunk by a lot. It's a lot smaller, a lot weaker, and yet, even though it's got less armour, only 2.8 inches about armour. Yeah, again, another hit. That symbol means it's penetrated, done damage, but again, it's not sinking. And that's, you know, maximum bulkheads. It's got what's it got? Maximum barbettes, reinforced bulkheads, anti-torpedo, maximum citadels, heavy shells. So actually, this light cruiser can tank more than the bigger ship can. It can do some serious work tanking. Yeah, ricochet. But just like in reality, I mean, this ship looks more like a... When you look at it from this angle, it looks more like a Bismarck. If you made that a 15-inch turret and did that, it would be, you have to sink the Bismarck. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, what was I saying? So, yeah, again, ricochet. They're too far away. They can't properly penetrate my armour. And this ship is shooting. Shells are coming in at this angle. They're hitting the side. They're bouncing off, just like on a tank. Same thing happens to a tank that happens to a ship. Obviously, not to the same extent. It's not as important, but still does happen. Anyway, ooh, that is a nasty fire, but I've got the bulkheads to deal with it. On that cruiser that's just sunk, if that would happen, potentially it could have exploded, but as you can see, it's a new fire. The fire's already out. Look at the damage models though. They do ping, 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 penetration, ping, penetration, ricochet, partial penetration, penetration. Again, something else clinked off the armour. Hole in the funnel. They do pay a lot of attention to detail, the devs have, and you've got to appreciate them for it. Oh, and nobody's exploded. No shells have actually been all out stopped. They've just ricocheted. Blocked shells is basically the shell hits the side of the ship square on and doesn't go in. Nobody's exploded and no torpedo hits. Even though we have torpedoes, we've been throwing torpedoes, nobody's hit. But yeah, look, more damage and still, Cirrus isn't. Look at all these shells coming in. So most of those missed. They would miss in reality too from this range. It's a fresh target in a smoke screen. Only Type 1 radar, so you only get some rough indication. Again, more shells coming in. Missed. They were close. Oh, that's one thing I didn't mention in my other video. Accuracy, this number here, even if you get 100% accuracy, it doesn't mean you're going to hit 100% of the time. Take the length of this ship, if you move that to the middle, and then draw a circle, so take that length, go to the middle, draw a circle, 100% accuracy means 100% chance of hitting in a circle around the ship. Like that. Doesn't mean you're going to hit every single time. It feels like you're going to hit every single time, but yeah, it's a cone of accuracy. And when you look at, oh, got another fire. When you look at the shoot information, technologies, more advanced guns, rangefinders, long-range techs and towers, three-barreled guns. When you have three-barrel weapons, firing the weapons, each barrel interferes with one another. That's why if you ever look at HMS Belfast, it's a British tank class light cruiser. It's preserved outside the House of Parliament on the... Why do they go to call the Thames the Humber? Not the Humber, it's the Thames. But yeah, one of its two guns on the outside look normal, but the one in the middle is pulled back. That's so the three guns don't interfere with each other. They fire the outer two and then the inner one fires a fraction of a second later. So the guns don't mess with each other. It's the equivalent of having one double turret and one single rather than three, but stuck it in three. Clever piece of engineering. Anyway, these are the factors. 5th grade guns is basically the quality of the guns has given me 20%. Cloudy weather, moderate breeze, moderate seas. Obviously, the ship's going up and down. It's being rolled about. Oof, that's another nasty hit. Well, not a nasty hit, but you can see. Small hits, they're slowly but surely building up damage here. There's no flooding. But partial penetration. Partial penetrations are nasty in reality because you can get what's called spoiling. And spoiling is basically splinters. So imagine, you know, several centimetres, so a couple of inch long metal splinters slicing into somebody. Yeah. That's what spoiling is. Yeah, not pretty. If it happens just a little bit, it could be sort of tiny sort of millimetre long fractures of tiny metal shooting into someone. But yeah, not pleasant. Oh, so Cirrus. Anyway, let's get back to the battle. So Cirrus is, you know, not doing well. Oh, a turret blew off Cirrus and I didn't notice. Well, that's what I get for being distracted, isn't it? Engine 2 damage, flooding. That symbol basically means the turret's blown up. But yeah, still, look at all this damage, look at all this flooding, but it's still alive. And that is what, you know, giving it all the barbettes, giving it, you know, the auxiliary engines to pump out the water, anti-flood measures to keep the ship afloat, bulkheads. That's what this does. Keeps your ship alive, keeps your ship fighting. That other ship, that heavy cruiser, it's got bigger guns, it's a bigger ship. So altogether, you could class it as being more powerful, but this one's still going. That one's dead. And it's lost its rudder, so it's basically going to start going in a circle. well, it lost its rudder back here, but it's going to have difficulty going out of this circle now it's got itself into it. Got itself into a mess, but I mean, look at that. If you saw that if you're on that ship in reality, you're at a 45-degree angle, I think, you know, there'd be a bit of panic. Again, a lovely hit. Damage, damage. We can't even see the damage because it's underwater. There's damage here. Damage there, damage there. And we can't see it because it's underwater. Oh, these may ricochet. Nope, they missed. But look at how close they were. If that ship had been going straight, theirs probably would have hit. But yeah, this is also why you need the electric turrets, or at least enhanced turrets, because your ship, obviously the quicker your ship is, the better it can maneuver. Eventually, you'll be moving so quickly that your turrets aren't moving fast enough. They can't keep the gun barrels pointed towards the target because your ship's moving quicker than the turrets can. Because look at how slowly that gun is moving compared to how quickly the ship did that U-turn. Oof, oof. 11-inch hits, but again, structural integrity is down to 29%. It's flooding. It's flooding stabilized. So it's not flooding. It's managed to keep on top of the water. Again, it's taking hit after hit after hit after hit, and it's still going. Again, another hit, flooding. Look at all these holes, and it's still trucking on. Which is what British ships tended to do. You know, when we didn't stack them full of explosives and ignore all the protection, that's what they tended to do. British ships, well, they got a bad reputation. It wasn't the ships that were a problem, it's those above giving orders. A good example of British engineering done well is actually HMS Queen Elizabeth. Was Queen Elizabeth class battleship. 8 15-inch guns. Basically, she lost the rudder during the Battle of Jutland and went up against the entire German fleet. She basically sailed past all her allies, out of control, went up against the entire German fleet for several minutes, hit dozens of times. She didn't blow up. She made it all the way back to port and served in World War II. Because, you know, the crews did what they were supposed to do, the people in charge did what they were supposed to do, and the ship held up like it was designed to. It was a battleship, not a battle cruiser. Battle cruiser is designed to kill cruisers and below. It's got battleship guns, but it doesn't have battleship armour, it doesn't have the bulkheads, it doesn't have the survivability. It's meant to take on tiny guns, not, you know, 15-inch, 12-inch, 13-inch shells being shot at it. It's not meant to do that. And we may be losing the Silas here. Again. Yeah. It took all that. Oof. Okay, well that was a thing. Yeah, that's what happens when a turret explodes. That's called a flash fire. That's what happened to battle cruisers in World War One. That happened, except for rather than just blowing a turret off, the whole ship blows up because where they keep the ammunition is right under them. So if that's going up like that, yeah, your whole ship goes bang. I don't know why I head keeps turning that way, to be honest. Have some with my left side. Anyway, yeah, and it's going down pretty quick, which you, after a magazine explosion, you would do. Again, partial penetration, partial penetration. Yeah, it had turns then, which it had holes on the bottom of the ship. And we can't turn enough to actually see, but yeah, the damage models have kind of vanished now that that happened to it. But yeah, look at how quickly it goes down. But yeah, if your ship has literally been blown to pieces or blown in half, by magazine explosion, you do go down this quick. Whereas other ships can take hours or even a day to go down. Or some ships are so badly damaged that they can't be saved, so have to be sunk by their own side. Oh, what on earth happened there? Did I hit a button and not mean to? But yeah, all this damage. I'm running out of shells, I'm running out of torpedoes. Yeah. You can run out of bullets in this game. Well, they're not bullets, they're shells, but you know what I mean. You can run out of ammo! And it's really embarrassing. Obviously in campaign you would have to decide, if I came up against this battle in campaign, saw roughly what they were, I would take this battle. But you've then got to realise, you know, I'm out of ammo, I need to get back to port. I need more bullets. And then you've got to decide, well, which port can I go to? Because one of the problems with having a big battleships like the Germans and other people did is, if your ship gets damaged, where are you gonna, what port are you going to go to get it repaired? Because if you've got a big ship, that doesn't mean that the port next door is going to have a dock large enough to fit your ship. That's why they tried to move Bismarck to the south of France after it was damaged, so it could raid from the side of France, where there was it's called the, well, it's known as the greatest, Saint-Nazaire, that was it. Saint-Nazaire. It's a French port, actually. It was a tiny little, tiny little destroyer called a Clemson class that was given to the British in World War II. Basically, a group of special operatives or commandos sailed on the ship, crashed it into filled it with explosives, crashed it into a dry dock, and blew up the dry dock, purely so that ships like Bismarck, Gneisenau, Scharnhorst and Tirpitz couldn't use that dock as a as a dock. It was meant to build ocean liners, and obviously an ocean liner and a battleship are roughly the same size. If you can get an ocean liner in there, you can get a battleship in there. Well, most battleships anyway. Yeah, they couldn't bomb it from air because, unlike nowadays where we can drop a missile within, what, a couple of inches of a target, that didn't used to happen in the old days. You would, I think only something like 5 or 10% of bombs landed within 5 miles of the target. So you would drop a bomb on a port and it would land in the city next to the port rather than in the port. I think it was about 5% of bombs landed within 5 miles of the target, or something silly like that. So obviously bombing a single dock in a port, it's never going to happen. So they basically packed a ship full of explosives, crashed it into a dock with a load of commandos on it and blew it up. Yeah. Oh, more history with Tiger. Oh dear. Yeah, this battle is going completely... This is one of those circumstances where I should have lost this battle. If this was a multiplayer battle... I don't know what, again, I don't know why I keep looking over there. Am I turning my... I'm turning my head there. I'm keeping my eyes forward and turning my head without noticing. Anyway, that was a sidetrack. This is one of the cases where if this was another player doing these, I would have lost. The AI is putting itself in the worst possible situation. It is standing at maximum range, firing away at my ship. My ship has bigger guns, I've got better armour. This ship needed... I mean, look at the distance. It's 8 kilometres out, it needed to be right in my face. 9 kilometres out, it needed to be at least 4 or 5 kilometres. It needed to turn to face me. It needed to do what the actual commander did in reality, which was nose in, charge. If they'd done that, And obviously these, I mean, look at these shells penetrating 8 inches. Well, because they're more than 7 kilometers away. Yeah, 8.8. So we're going 7, yeah, 8.4 inches. Well, my armour, again, belt armour, 4.3. So 108, let's call it 8.7. Then they're not getting through. They're not going to get through at this range. They need to be 5,000 meters away. They're too far away. Because I'm getting all these, all the green is where I'm getting all sort of tiny little dings on the ship. And obviously, its maximum range is 12,000. My maximum range is 20,000. This is where this standoffishness of the AI can sometimes cause it to lose a battle. The player would have nosed in, would have taken the fight to me. It's hanging back and dying. It's not a bad thing, because there are plenty of situations where you want to be doing exactly what the AI is doing, and it's a tiny development team. You absolutely cannot blame them. They're doing the best they can. They've got a lot on the plate, doing the best they can. You can't blame them for this, because this happened. This actually happened in reality. That's why they decided, you know, attack, attack, attack. But yeah, it's one of those situations where I should not have won this. Because I mean, look at how badly damaged I am. 78%. I'm not flooding. I'm almost out of ammo. So if I don't sink it in the next few rounds, I'm going to have to be the one that closes in. Their engines are damaged. Let's see what speed they're... Well, let's see what speed they're going. There we go. Topaz. 17.3. Engine damage, flooding. If I don't sink it soon, I'm going to run out of ammunition and I'm going to have to close in. Speaking of that, I'm actually going to turn my torpedoes off, because I might close in and use my torpedoes. Obviously, I haven't got a single torpedo hit, but neither do they. Would you stop doing that weird noise all of a sudden? Anyway, here's my torpedoes. Which, to be fair, in the actual Battle of the River Plate, they fired lots and lots and lots and lots of torpedoes and no bugger hit anything. I mean, Langsdorff was a torpedo expert. He had, well, he torpedo expert is kind of in the name. So, but even the ships were manoeuvring so much, nobody hit anything with a torpedo. This didn't happen. Almost did. From what we know, the Ajax certainly fired its last few torpedoes. They were definitely out of ammo. But yeah, nobody hit. But again, video game versus reality. It just happened. Again, another lovely hit, but... And again, it's got me, but it's never penetration on the funnel. You need to be closer. And I'm down to 24 rounds. Obviously, I'm firing 6 shots, so, yeah. I mean, hit me in the funnel, over penetration. I hit them with a 5-inch partial penetration. Running out of bullets. I keep saying bullets, even though I've just corrected myself multiple times and said, hey, it's not actually bullets. Although this video is like an hour long, and I have been talking about various topics, the game is in real time. I'm not going to fast forward it, there's no need. It looks like they may be deciding to... Yeah, it's gone down to 10 knots. You know what? Maximum speed... 26? Yeah. Because I've taken damage, I can't go up to 28 knots anymore. I can only do 26.3. Because, obviously, I've taken all this damage. As you take damage, just as you would in reality, your ship slows down. I've taken hits into my funnel, I've taken hits to the superstructure, I've taken hits below the waterline. Just like you would expect to happen if this happened to you in reality. I can't go as fast as I did. Yeah, 25 ricochet, so I've hit 25 shells have hit the target, but are bounced off. Enemy damage, 80. They hit me 81 times out of 2,389. 3.4% accuracy. That's realistic. That's actually realistic, and I kind of like that. That's real. And even me, 2,500 shells, 4.4. That's realistic. That is so real. It's not. You don't get that in any other game. That kind of makes it fun because it is a bit of a roll of the dice. Do you go with a weakish? Do you go with strong guns that can do a lot of damage, but you have limited shells, and again your accuracy is better, but again you've got limited shots? Or do you go with a lot of smaller guns and decide to just do the other tactical, throw as much crap as you can? Entirely, because I mean I've got 4 torpedoes left. Two very different ways to play. But yeah, my main guns are completely out of ammo. And my single guns are here. They've only got 155 shots left at 1% accuracy. These guys have got 1,600 odd, but again 1% accuracy. Come on, seedlets! I mean Graf Spee. But yeah, I keep sort of fanboying over the damage models because, you know, ships look like this. If you look at historical photos of World War I and World War II ships after a battle, they looked like this. Obviously, there were parts missing and there were gaping holes in places. But the actual Graf Spee, when you see a picture of Graf Spee after the battle, she had black spots on her, she had holes pretty much everywhere, there was collapsed pieces of superstructure. It was a mess. And this is one of those games where that's actually representative. You know, there were burn marks, bits of the funnel get shot off. If you lose a turret, the actual turret, it blows off and it's gone. Or if it doesn't blow up, you can have the turret crippled, where it will show, hey, this turret's been destroyed. But yeah, I am now having to close in for the kill. It's at 6 knots, which is, yeah, I mean, you can just see the difference in speed. You can feel the difference in speed just by how quickly that's passing those shell shots. Compared to, oh, well that hit, so that's a bad example. Yeah, smoke screens. Look how slow it's going where that shot landed, how little distance it's gone. But yeah, it's quite fun. It takes a while, because it's a game that you need to have patience for, but again, you know, smoke screens, battle damage, your ship's slowly getting worn down. And there are cases where you just have a one-sided victory, and there are other cases where that one-sided victory is not the way you expected it to go. Battle of Narvik would be a good one, where Queen Elizabeth ambushed a load of destroyers. I mean, if you play World of Warships, if a battleship came around the corner and there was, you know, 7, 8 destroyers there, you would expect that battleship to be torpedoed. Never. Caught them with the trousers down and they got walloped. Because hey, if you put a 15-inch shell into the side of a destroyer and it happens to explode, you know, it will blow a hole 40 foot wide. These things are only 100 to 200 feet wide, and it will blow a 40-foot hole in the side. That's what Congo did to the Japanese light battleship or fast battle cruiser. Congo had 14-inch guns during the Battle of Taffy 3. I know that's not the name of the battle, but that was, yeah. That was one of the battles where Yamato fought, and Yamato was the largest, most powerful battleship ever constructed. ignore what the Americans say about Iowa. It's, you know, one of the interesting things about historical discussions that I find is it kind of, in a lot of ways, they ignore the tactics, the standing orders, and personality of the captains involved. Like, the Americans, for instance, they pretty much always charged. And the American information at the time was, hey, this thing is armed with 16-inch guns. This ginormous battleship called Yamato is only armed with the same guns that you are. Your firepower is even. And the whole process of the American Navy, and really the American Armed Forces in general, even today, is attack, attack, attack. But that would have got everybody, that would mean that, yes, you could argue that Iowa was more accurate, etc., 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 but Iowa isn't going to be sitting at sort of 20 miles out, pummeling, exchanging shots with Yamato. It's going to charge because it's an American ship, American commander in World War II that thinks he's got an even fight on his hand. Yeah. The historical precedent is that they would have charged, and obviously you're getting their information was wrong. So yeah, it would have got closer and closer and closer. Yamato would have done more damage. Yamato's accuracy would have been better because they're closer. So yeah, Yamato was one of the few Japanese ships to actually have radar. Granted, it wasn't as good as the British or the American radar, but you know, having it is still a factor. And a lot of World War II guns that use radar didn't just pull it on the radar and shoot to that. They also had other methods. They corresponded it with other methods as well. Oh, and that's a flash fire. Yeah, it is pretty much almost dead. Do you know what? I'm gonna... Off. Remember the bit where I said he was a torpedo expert? So... Oof. Again, Ricochet not going to penetrate me at this angle. He's doing 4 knots. Again, Ricochet. Yeah, over penetration. The angle's wrong for him. Ping. Don't worry, I'm getting closer. He's obviously, if a ship was this badly damaged with this much flooding, it's hard to say whether the crew would have abandoned ship or not at this point. Because you're dead in the water with this Imperial ship about to jump on you. Your guns can still fire, but you've lost your entire fleet. Are you actually at this point still going to fight? And some of that is a cultural thing. Some of that is down to the spirit of the crew and the commander. If the... You could argue that they were still... Yeah, as soon as they start turning, damage is increasing. Look, penetration. This is what I mean about getting in close. Boink. Yep. I'd say that was appropriate ending. In the real Battle of the River Plate, none of the British ships were heavily damaged, severely damaged. Exeter was forced to withdraw. It was barely seaworthy and almost didn't make it to port. It was so badly damaged. Achilles and... How on earth did I forget? Achilles, Exeter... Wait, I forgot the other name? What? How on earth could I forget the other name? Exeter. Achilles and Exeter. That's definitely two of them. Ajax! For God's sake! Ajax, Achilles, Exeter. What an idiot! Anyway, Ajax and Achilles were heavily damaged, but they didn't. They stayed at the mouth of the River Plate because the Graf Spee went into Montevideo Harbour, which is in modern day Argentina, I believe, or Uruguay. Does Uruguay still exist? Or is Uruguay part of Argentina now? Can't remember. HMS Cumberland, which didn't participate in the battle, he was sent up north to engage the Graf Spee should they be up north. It came back to replace Exeter. Cumberland was a more powerful ship than Exeter was. Had two extra 6-inch guns, better armour, better torpedoes, and just generally a more powerful ship. Langsdorff had to retreat because basically there's a fuel filtration system on the Graf Spee on a lot of diesel engines at the time. That was damaged, so he was leaking fuel, so Langsdorff had to have the Graf Spee withdraw to a neutral port, which happened to be Montevideo. With that, there was a bit of a propaganda battle, or a bit of a battle of misinformation. This is where the spies take over. Basically, the British generated a load of radio traffic, insinuating that the carrier Ark Royal and multiple other heavy units, including a couple of battleships, were on the way to Montevideo Harbour. Of course, Admiral Graf Spee barely survived. It was still seaworthy-ish, aside from the fuel issue. But it had been heavily damaged, used almost all its ammunition, and if there was an aircraft carrier out there, or if there was multiple units out there, frankly, there was no way in hell that Langsdorff would have been able to get that ship home. So he had two choices. He could stay in Montevideo Harbour, where his ship would be interned, which basically means kind of like imprisonment by a neutral third party. You know, it's under their control, out of the war. But let's have another sip. But with that being said, there's always a chance that that third neutral country could turn around and join the Allies, in which case your ship, all its fancy technology, would then be handed over to your enemies. Or the other option is he could scuttle it, which is what he did. Everybody was prepared for a significant battle, a second fight to take place. He sailed it a couple of miles out the channel and basically scuttled his ship. A couple of days later, he took his life. He was a fair man to his crew. Unlike Graf Spee was being supplied by a transport ship called the Altmark. The Altmark's something completely different. Obviously, it's a transport, but that's got its own story if you want to have a look at that. But they really, really did not treat their prisoners well. Not at all. They were basically given a bucket, starved, beaten. The Altmark was basically it was a living hell for the people on board it. But Langsdorff was a respectable gentleman. He always gave as long as you didn't send out a distress call. In some cases, I believe he allowed the ship to send out an SOS to give the position of the ship away. Obviously, he didn't. He did that, and then he ran like hell. But there were occasions where he actually let the distress call go out, so that people could be picked up. Obviously, he was doing that when he was going to relocate anyway, so it's but he always treated his prisoners with respect and dignity. He always treated his crew well, and he made sure that during the battle, one of the first things he did was see to his crew rather than his ship. So yeah, but he eventually took his own life. It was one of the it was one of the few captains that were actually truly respected by both sides. And there are instances, more instances between England and Germany where people would actually send correspondences between the two nations, complimenting the bravery and courage of each individual crews. An example of that would be, what is it? I believe it was the Acasta. I think it was HMS Glorious was an aircraft carrier. It was 2 destroyers and an aircraft carrier. They were in bad weather. They were ambushed by the German battleships Gneisenau and Scharnhorst. I believe it was the Acasta, if I remember correctly, managed to get a torpedo off that hit Scharnhorst that put her into a dock. Scharnhorst lost 70 crew. Obviously, both Ardent, Acasta, and the aircraft carrier, I'm pretty sure it was Glorious, but they were sunk. However, the Germans did take on prisoners, and the Germans actually sent a message out to let the Royal Navy know where the ship was. That the commander of the Scharnhorst also sent a signal back to London to say, can't remember the exact signal, but it was something along the lines of it was a worthy adversary, and that he'd fought well. That happened. That didn't really happen between Germany and America because just the nature of your cultures, but it happened a few times, and so there was a bit of mutual respect going on there. But yeah, at the time, only the Cumberland, the Ajax, and the Achilles were actually in range of Montevideo. Obviously, as I mentioned, there was a lot of radio chatter. There was intelligence leaks. The British even bought up several tankers worth of fuel, as if a massive fleet was about to arrive. So, obviously, once he figured out it was a trick, it was to maintain his own personal honour, I suppose, and prevent himself from being captured. So he ensured the welfare of his crew and then killed himself. That was kind of stuff. I can't remember a lot about his World War One career, but yeah, thing. It's always a bit interesting, at least I find, having a look at some of the historical context. I mean, it's always nice to obviously see battles and other bits going on in video games or in films, but having the historical context, actually knowing at least some of the information about what actually happened under these circumstances, I find is a bit, well, it's nice. And there's a lot of those smaller battles and smaller encounters throughout the wars, or throughout history in general, that sort of get swept under the rug. I mean, I would say a lot of people in the historical communities know about things like Jutland, but not many people, even though it's famous in obviously special forces operations, not many people know about the raid on Saint Nazaire, what it was or why it occurred. There were even several Victoria Crosses that were given out on Saint Nazaire. I know there was one officer, or one soldier, sorry, who was basically on the wreck of a sinking boat. The Germans demanded he surrendered, and he returned it with machine gun fire. He took multiple shots and kept fighting until he was basically shot to pieces. The German commander at the time, well, the German officer who engaged him, sent a message to London and said that man deserves a Victoria Cross, and he got it. So, but yeah, things like this always have. It's not just the battle; it's also the story leading up to the battle and what goes on after. Oh dear. I want to actually talk more, but I think I am actually losing my voice right now. So I'm going to leave it here. Otherwise, I will prattle on all day. I've actually been prattling on for a little while, but anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will be doing more of these. So if you have any suggestions of what battle to do next, feel free to put it down in the comments. Obviously, there's no aircraft carriers, so if you want a carrier fight, not possible. But yeah, ship on ship. Obviously no land battles or no port attacks because there aren't any. And the devs don't intend to put any in. But yeah, if you want to suggest something, please do. Hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.